Tonight we have a presentation. He'll introduce our presenter just in a moment. I just want to remind everyone that we do have our Frederick Iver Campbell 19th Century Baseball Conference scheduled for the end of April. If you'd like to register, I will be holding our checks, however, based on a final disposition of the Hall of Fame in terms of the virus and what they're going to be doing. Right now they are open, but they're in a limited capacity at the moment. But I was encouraged by them to move forward. We're very close in time, 1 week only, ahead of their symposium, which they themselves host. So I think they want to, hopefully, I think they got their fingers crossed too. I mean, they're just being very cautious because they have to comply with any state regulations or restrictions that may come into place, being like a public venue. But anyway, we are about, we're closing in on about 25% of our normal capacity up there, which is kind of encouraging. All right, and it looks like a great conference. Bob, let me turn it over to you for this evening, and then I'll say a word at the end.
All right, very good. If you please remember to mute yourselves during the presentation. It just helps keep any background noise out. If you have any questions or comments, please use the chat function. Just move your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom screen, click on chat, and the window will appear in the lower right hand where you can type in any question or comment. And at the end of the presentation, we'll make sure that they get directed to Alan. Tonight's speaker is Alan Cohen, the scion of West Hartford, Connecticut. Alan is a graduate of Franklin and Marshall College with a degree in history and spent 40 years as an underwriter in the insurance industry with organizations like Cigna, Equitable, and MetLife. He's an active member of the Smoky Joe Wood SABR chapter in Connecticut, and is a chief fact checker for SABR's Bio Project. In addition to his work with the Bio Project's administration, Alan has contributed over 50 biographies and game stories to the Bio Project. He has also written 10 SABR Journal articles. In addition to his writings, his activities include researching the Hearst Sandlot Classic from 1946 to 47. He serves as the datacaster for the Hartford Yard Goats. We have no idea what the yard goat is, but that's something they like in Hartford. Alan's topic tonight is Never on a Sunday, Baseball's Battles with the Blue Laws. So Alan, if you would like to put your slides on up, it will get this show rolling.
Okay, do you need me to share the screen here?
Yeah. Click the share screen, the green button at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a screen that should show your, give you a choice to click on your slides.
Are we okay now?
There you are. Now you've got to go to full screen. If you look at the bottom right, there's an icon next to the slide bar. It's a square with a line through it and a kind of a plus sign underneath it. That'll take you to full screen. Just click on that.
Let me see if I can get there. Full screen.
Go to the bottom of your slide and it says notes, and then there's some icons. The fourth icon over, click that.
Oh, I'm still not.
If you look at the bottom of your slide, you see where it says notes at the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go to the fourth icon, so it's square with a little plus sign underneath it. Click that.
Okay.
Next one over.
Next one over.
And there you are. You're full screen now.
Okay.
Just scroll back and you get to start. There you are.
Okay, we're all set here. Let me explain briefly that we're going to be doing an overview of the history of Sunday blue laws and baseball. But we're going to be focusing on Rochester, New York in 1897. For those of you who have not read much on Sunday baseball, there are two books on the subject. One is by Charlie Beefus, which is on Sunday baseball, and the other one is by Charles Lamott, which is something like Bat, Ball, and Bible, which focuses on New York. So, but we're going to go do an overview, especially as we spoke about the American Association at our last meeting. So I want to go over that with you. So we'll begin. And I'm going to be reading quite a bit from these slides. Let's see, I want to do this. Good. In the early days, the Sabbath, and that's the Sunday Sabbath, was observed, and there was like no activity on Sunday. And in Pennsylvania, this practice was codified and later updated, but first codified in 1779 with the blue laws. And there were blue laws in every state. And I would say the blue laws were mostly in the eastern states, as we will see as we see the places that prohibited Sunday ball. The National League in 1876 totally banned Sunday baseball. The National League was looking to respectability, and that was part of respectability. And they really would not back off until 1892, when the National League became the only American league. As we were discussing before, the American Association did die after the 1891 season, and 4 American Association teams joined the National League, and 2 of them had hosted Sunday games in 1891, and that's only 2 of the last American Association teams. About the American Association, 10 years, 25 distinct teams at one time or another were in that league. So many teams didn't even make it through a season, let alone last for more than one. There were 6 charter cities in the American Association, and the only 2 that had Sunday baseball originally was St. Louis and Louisville, which might be a little shocking to some. Cincinnati, which it was said bolted from the National League, one reason being Sunday ball, did not have Sunday ball right away. Now, the league expanded to 8 teams in 1883, and Columbus became the 3rd city. And Ohio was very interesting in its enforcement of the blue laws. Inconsistent would be probably the best word. Cincinnati began hosting Sunday games in 1884, and part of that was the Union Association came in for that 1 year of 1884, and they, in 1884, the Cincinnati team had Sunday games, and the American Association team had to compete. Of the 8 cities in the American Association at the end of the 1891 season, only Louisville and St. Louis hosted the Sunday games. Now, in 1886 and 1887, the New York Metropolitans played on Staten Island, and there were no Sunday home games at St. George Cricket Grounds. However, the team did play one Sunday game. It went to Weehawken, New Jersey, and played a game against Louisville. This was a game that was a makeup of a game that originally was scheduled for Louisville, but they went to Weehawken. Needless to say, the Mets lost. Now, the Union Association. Now, there was a league that had a lot of teams. but the actual count was 12. 5 of the Union Association cities, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Chicago, Kansas City, and Milwaukee, had Sunday baseball. The other league that we've heard about, the Players League of 1890, did not have Sunday baseball. Now, Sunday baseball's growth in popularity, because it was popular, was accompanied by the forces opposed to Sunday baseball, basically groups called the Sabbatarians, who wanted to observe the Sabbath. There were many incidents and many court cases. And we also saw the use of Sunday-only locations by many teams. Now, when I first did my research that I presented up in Cooperstown, it was going to be a lot of anecdotes, fun type things, and many of them were fun type things. And then I found some more serious things. So we'll talk about in 1882, the New York Tribune mentioned that 7 or 8 young men were arraigned in the New York police courts on June 12th for playing baseball. On June 11th, 2 were discharged. The others were fined $1 to $5, which wasn't a small amount of money then. In 1885, those seeking to ban Sunday baseball in Kansas City, and Kansas City at the time was in the Western League, they had little success. This was a letter in the Sporting Life. Some very pious people in the city are agitating for the suppression of Sunday baseball, but have met with very poor success, as the enthusiasm for the professional game has fever here, and those who are disposed to aid in Sunday baseball are bowled down on every occasion. As I said, in the western part of the country, Sunday baseball was favored. Cities like Chicago and St. Louis, no problem. We have an incident with John L. Sullivan, the fighter. He thought he was a baseball player, and he pitched exhibition games. On a Sunday in September of 1885, he was pitching at Brooklyn Park in Cleveland, Ohio. He pitched for a Western League team known as the Forest Cities against the Sandusky's. Although his team lost, he only allowed 6 hits. After the game, he was arrested for violation of the Sunday law at the insistence of the Law and Order Society. Most of the groups that opposed Sunday baseball were called the Law and Order Society or something akin to that. On Monday, the case was called. He pleaded guilty and was fined $1 in costs. It amounted to $17. He had received $900 for his appearance. And frankly, he made money at the deal. And that will be a factor later on. It was a moneymaker, and people were willing to get fined just to have the Sunday baseball. They came out ahead of the deal. Now, this goes back, this is not a typo, 1865. A boy named Fred Clemens was arrested for playing ball. The boy said he had just been dismissed from Sabbath school and was meeting a younger brother who had a bat and ball. They went to a nearby lot and was giving instructions on how to play the game when he was taken into custody by a police officer, and he was fined $1. In 1883, now it gets a little bit more serious. Mr. George Morrow of the Town Street Church, he was expelled for voting in favor of the repeal of the ordinance prohibiting Sunday baseball. At the time, Columbus was in the American Association, and as we discussed before, they were playing Sunday baseball. Of course, there was this heated exchange in Chicago. This Sunday ball playing is a shame and an outrage, said a streetcar patron. A youngster on the streetcar put things in perspective. You don't know what you're talking about, said the kid. Billy Sunday is the best runner in the whole league. We have Sunday-only locations in many places. The Philadelphia Athletics of the American Association ventured to Gloucester Point in New Jersey. And this was not part of my original presentation, but one of the people in the audience asked about this. They were in Gloucester Point, New Jersey, and they played on Sundays for 3 seasons. This was 1888, 1889, and 1890. Of course, when the law was passed, it met with opposition. The first official game was played on June 10, 88. And these words appeared in the Harrisburg Independent on June 27, 1888. Sunday baseball and Sunday beer go hand in hand, the one being necessary to invigorate the other, and both being of the character of a definement of a day which all laws, divine and human, demand shall be kept holy. By July 1888, there was talk of impeaching the mayor of Gloucester for failing to enforce the laws against beer and baseball. As noted in the Philadelphia Inquirer, every Sunday evening, the ferry boats landing at Christian and South Streets have met hundreds of drunken, quarreling, swearing, discordant men and women who create disturbances and street fights and generally wind up by obtaining arrest in the station house cells. In 1890, 1884 and 1890 were probably the two most crazy years because each year we had 3 leagues and at least 24 teams. Well, in 1890, the Syracuse Stars migrated from the International League, which was the minor league, to the American Association, and they played their Sunday games without much incident at the Three Rivers Resort. The state of New York did have blue laws, but the laws were not universally applied or welcome. For example, in Buffalo, there was never a problem with Sunday baseball. But in Rochester, that's a different story. Rochester was one of the scenes for the ongoing war in 1890. That season, the Sunday games were played at Windsor Beach, which is on Lake Ontario, but that did not stop the authorities from interfering and having players arrested. On July 2012, Brooklyn team players, after being arrested, were released on bonds. The New York Times went on to saying that the Rochester-Brooklyn game was interrupted after the second inning when 12 members of the Law and Order League of the town of Arundequoit, where this ballpark was located, sought to have the players arrested. Quite a ruckus ensued, and there were blows exchanged, and the game continued. And the bonds were issued. This is a picture that I got from the Rochester Baseball Society. They have a wonderful website, and this is the location and designs of Windsor Beach grounds. I call this slide, "It Happened in Brooklyn or Thereabouts," because there was no Sunday baseball in Brooklyn. Brooklyn was for a while a separate city and then incorporated into the city of New York. But in either instance, no Sunday baseball. But Sunday baseball was allowed in Queens and at Ridgewood Park. But that gets us to the situation where we have 2 Ridgewood Parks. The first one was known as Crowers Ridgewood Park, which was used for 14 Sunday games by the Brooklyn Grays in 1886. Now, the name of that team was subject to change from time to time. The following 3 seasons, the Grays, who were known as the Bridegrooms in 1888, played on Sundays at Wallace's Ridgewood Park. When the Bridegrooms moved to the National League in 1890, they ceased playing Sunday baseball, and they would not play Sunday baseball legally in Brooklyn until 1919. In 1890, Ridgewood Park served as the regular home base for a new team, the Brooklyn Gladiators, a new entry in the American Association. That is until June 8th of 1890, when they were evicted for not paying money. Well, the Gladiators relocated to the Polo Grounds, but that meant no Sunday baseball. But they did play Sunday games in Maspeth, Queens on July 27th and August 3rd. The Gladiators did not make it through the whole season. They wound up being replaced in the league by Baltimore. This is an incident in Alexandria, Virginia. This was between Washington and Worcester. They were in the Atlantic Association at the time. Sheriff Veach of Alexandria County arrived and arrested Secretary Burkett of the Washington team. After they concluded there was instant justice, a judge decided to hear the case. The court was convened, and the team was fined $47.60, which was paid promptly. However, Mr. Burkett still had problems. The sheriff sought to arrest him for giving an exhibition, the ball game, without a license. Burkett fled the scene on a buggy to the District of Columbia. The judge who heard the case was a person of color and was with the usual amount of name calling by the local citizenry. One of the citizens came after the judge with a pistol, and the judge made his way toward the adjoining woods for shelter. That is where the story ends that I had. So I really don't know what happened further. Now, for the 1892 season in the National League, with the four new teams, so it's now a 12-team league with two teams that had previously played Sunday baseball. On December 17th, 1891, the National League owners met in Indianapolis to agree upon the basic principles for the constitution of the 12-team league. It was announced that the league will not openly declare in favor of Sunday games, no such games being on the schedule, but it will allow somebody talking? It will allow Sunday baseball by permitting those towns which desire to play Sunday games to do so and count the same as regular league games. Sunday baseball was played in Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Louisville in 1892. This is then league president Nicholas Young. I'm sorry I didn't have more graphics for you folks, but finding pictures of the people we're going to be talking about was not that easy. Now, in 1893, President Young updated the league's ruling, and he said playing on Sunday must be regulated by the communities. A little evidence of punting here, in which the clubs composing our organization have their existence, but I do not think that the people of the East will ever look with favor upon such a proposition. And even with the leagues allowing Sunday baseball, not all cities participated. There was Sunday ball in such cities as Cincinnati, Chicago, St. Louis, and Louisville in 1893, but 8 locales continued not to have Sunday baseball. A little aside here, Christy Mathewson was known to not play ball on Sunday. Well, during his career, that was not a major inconvenience because most of the teams in Mathewson's career did not play on Sunday. So he didn't miss too many games by not playing on Sunday. In the early years of the National League, only Baltimore, Washington, and Cleveland would play Sunday games on the road. New York and Brooklyn didn't. Most cities went without Sunday ball. Bans in Maryland and District of Columbia prevented the National League Orioles and Senators from playing ball in the 19th century. Those bans were not lifted until the 20th century. New York State outlawed Sunday baseball, and their ban lasted until after the First World War. There were not legal games. There were some illegal ones. Massachusetts banned Sunday ball. They didn't relent until the third decade of the 20th century. In the late 1920s, the Braves had Sunday ball, and the Red Sox, it wasn't until the 1930s. The ban in Pennsylvania, home to the original Blue Laws, was not lifted until the 1934 season. And when I was growing up, if there was a Sunday game in Pennsylvania, no inning could start after 7 p.m. The situation in Cleveland was complicated, and you could write a whole book on the travels of the Cleveland Spiders, but we'll just try to sum it up in a couple of slides here. The administration of the Sunday Blue laws in Ohio, as I said before, was uneven. In Cleveland, there was much opposition to Sunday ball. Mayor Robert McKisson was a foe of Sunday baseball, and he was joined in his efforts to enforce the state ban by an unusual group, the clergy and the saloon owners. The former saw Sunday baseball saw Sunday as a day of rest and peace. The latter saw Sunday as a day for drinking and revenue. Baseball would interfere in the plans of both clergy and saloon keepers. The saloon keepers didn't understand that baseball now is all about the beer, unfortunately, at times. When the Spiders did play on Sunday, there were arrests. The first instance of an arrest took place on May 16, 1897, when umpire Tim Hurst and all the players were arrested and released on bail. On that day, when Hurst yelled "batter up" for the second inning instead of the batter, police captain English put in an appearance and stopped the game. President Frank DeHaas Robeson of the Spiders refunded the money of the fans who were upset with the turn of events. More on the Spiders. In early July 1897, Judge Walter Ong of the Court of Common Pleas ruled the law banning Sunday baseball to be unconstitutional. For 3 successive Sundays, commencing on June 11th, there was Sunday baseball in Cleveland. And during the balance of the season, Sunday baseball was played in Cleveland on 3 other occasions. But the furor was hardly over. Sunday baseball did not solve the attendance woes of the Cleveland Spiders. Their attendance for the 1897 season was a dismal 115,000, worst in the league, despite an over 500 record. They were in 5th place in the 12-team league. In 1898, they were in a bind. The Young decision gave them only temporary relief, as it was in due course overturned and Sunday baseball was once again banned in Cleveland. They used Euclid Beach, which was outside of Cleveland, for games on June 12th and June 19th. On June 19th, with Cleveland batting in the bottom of the 8th inning at Euclid Beach Park, the game ended abruptly when all of the Cleveland players were arrested for violating the Sunday Blue law. Not coincidentally, the Spiders had just scored to go ahead 4-3, so the arrests assured Cleveland of a victory. And this is a picture of the baseball grounds at Euclid Beach Park. I believe I found this in that great ballpark book, in which I forget the name of, I'm sorry. Rhode Island, the Providence team, they were in the Eastern League. They played Sunday games at Rocky Point. In 1888, the resort had been used by players belonging to the teams in the State League. Per the Sporting Life, teams did not play as members of the league, but as picked nines. There was a good deal of liquor used, and some wrangling ensued, but things soon simmered down to a state of comparative decency, and since then, the games have been quite orderly. In 1891, the site was used by the Eastern League's Providence team. Baseball was accepted by Sheriff Sprague. The Sporting Life said, "There is no question of politics or bribery in this matter, for the sheriff is far above that. But in an interview, he takes the ground that all Rhode Island people who are not fanatics believe now, as they have in the past, on this subject. He states that if steamboats are allowed to run to the shore places, band concerts given, flying horses, swings, toboggan slides, and things run, shore dinners served, etc., he sees no reason why the law of the state should stop at baseball, which is, he thinks, an innocent game and one that is not conducive to gambling any more than 2 flies crawling up a window pane, if the spectators want to bet. He does not think the ball games draw any tougher crowd than would ordinarily go down to the river. So the game was allowed to go on." And this is a picture of the Rocky Point grounds. Other Sunday locales. in the 8-team Atlantic Association, the 1890 Baltimore Orioles played 5 Sunday games at Acton Park and Washington, previously noted, they were tried to play in Alexandria. Providence was still at Rocky Point, and other Eastern League cities joined Providence in venturing to resort locations. Albany and Troy played at Pleasure Island and Beaver Island, and Rochester played at Windsor Beach in 1891 and 1892. But the Rochester saga would continue. In part due to the opposition to Sunday baseball, there was no professional baseball in Rochester in 1893. There were amateur games at the Culver Park grounds, and that was Rochester's home ballpark, but no Sunday ball. In October of 1893, the grandstand at Culver Park burnt down. Fires were not unusual in those days. Rochester continued without a professional team in 1894. Now, rather than rebuilding Culver Park, interested parties bought property on North St. Paul Boulevard, opposite the present Seneca Park in Rochester, which is at the northern end of Rochester, along the Genesee River. And plans were drawn up for a new ballpark that would be called Riverside Park. In late 1894, Rochester won a bid to join the Eastern League, and they played there in the 1895 season. Then they played at Riverside Park. Now, the new ownership of the group, the 3 owners were Charlie Limegruber, Charlie Englert, and Jim Buckley. They became known as the Big Three. The ballpark was located within the town of Arondacott, home of the forces opposed to Sunday baseball. But those forces, and this is a picture of Riverside Park, which on the outskirts, we'll talk about the outskirts, what they had out there as well. But this was Riverside Park. Now, in an attempt to cater to the bicycle craze that swept Rochester in the late 19th century, the ballpark was designed to include a bicycle track as well as the baseball diamond. The circular quarter-mile track was 20 feet wide and constructed of solid concrete. The baseball diamond was situated inside the track. The only other time I know of a track being around the ballpark was the Polo Grounds before the Mets moved in 1962, while the ballpark was unoccupied, so to speak. They had used it for race car driving, and there was a track around the Polo Grounds. 3 grandstands were situated on the east end of the park, behind which were horse stables and a large bicycle enclosure. There were no incidents that I found involving the playing of Sunday baseball in Rochester. They scheduled games, they were played, no problem. That was 1895, 1896. But now we have 3 months in 1897 to talk about. In 1897, in Albany, legislation known as the Wilcox Bill was proposed that would make the playing of Sunday baseball a misdemeanor, punishable by a fine. The proponents of Sunday baseball favored this legislation as it would have been an improvement over the more stringent law in place. The proposed legislation did not get the necessary 3/4 approval in the state assembly, the vote being 53-44. Thus, the legislation was defeated, and there was no legal Sunday baseball in Rochester in 1897. Now, the first Sunday game was played on April 18th, but it was hardly without incident. The Sunday Blue laws continued to be a problem for the team. And on July 2nd, 1897, 6 Rochester players were found guilty of playing ball on Sunday, May 16th, in the Kid Gannon case. there was one of 4 cases being simultaneously litigated. From April through July, in the Rochester newspaper, there were columns and columns and columns of stories each and every day with the pros and cons of Sunday baseball. The owner, and the end of this, and we'll go into detail in a second as to what went on, but the owners, wary of the Sunday hassle, and there were other things that happened, uprooted the team in mid-season, and in July 1897, they moved the team to Montreal, signaling the end of Riverside Park after only 2.5 seasons. Now, what happened on April 18th? Well, a game was scheduled that afternoon between Buffalo and Rochester, and a good crowd was on hand. Also on hand was Constable Branston, who determined that there would be no baseball played on that day. The game, originally scheduled to begin at 3:30, got underway at 4 p.m., and the fans were instructed to be quiet throughout the proceedings. Nevertheless, after the first half inning, Constable Branson took to the mound and stopped play. Shortly thereafter, the local clergy were on the scene and demanded that the constable arrest the offending ball players. The constable did not make any arrests. Indeed, play resumed, only to be stopped again, this time by Constable Kohler. Play was interrupted several times, and at the conclusion of the top of the 7th, the player observed that Sheriff Scruff had entered the ballpark, and they refrained from taking their positions on the field. Hence, the sheriff witnessed no actual playing of baseball, and he didn't make any arrests. Play was suspended at that point, and the score reverted to the tally through 6 innings. Buffalo was declared the winner, and the battle for Sunday baseball would resume at a later date. That later date was May 16th. The big 3 were not about to see Sunday baseball, and there was an interesting confrontation on May 16th. They resolved to bar the clergy from entering the ballpark. Mr. Buckley and Mr. Engler, 2 of the so-called big 3, they greeted the clergy and said, "These are private grounds. We believe you have come here to create a disturbance. You have said that you would break up the game, and you cannot come in." The leader of the ministers was Reverend Charles A. Merrill, and he resolved to take legal action against the team's officials. He contended that the defendant, that being the team owners, without any lawful reason, arbitrarily and unlawfully refused to admit the plaintiff, Merrill, to said place amusement, and excluded him therefrom, and thereby denied to the plaintiff the full and equal enjoyment of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, and privileges of said place of amusement. He was a determined man. After filing papers, his resolve was intact. He went on to say, "I am no prophet. I am only a preacher. I do not know whether or not an attempt will be made to stop the game on May 23rd. A plan of action may be determined before that, but at present I cannot tell what will be done. Anyway, I think the baseball people know that they have not long to live. The lawsuit against the team would be heard at a later date." And the trials began. So, for those keeping count of everything, there were 4 cases involving the arrest and the lawsuits stemming from Sunday baseball. Case 1, the owners and players were arrested on June 5th for their activities on June 18th. A grand jury had been convened after the sheriffs didn't arrest anybody. That trial case came to trial on June 9th. The judge ruled in favor of the team. Case 2, the owners were arrested pursuant to a game on June 13. And here's the headline after the June 28th trial. The big 3 scores first. President Buckley acquitted at county court. the verdict was a surprise because the court's charge, and it was a definite charge, was a charge to convict. If you it was a lengthy presentation, and he was saying convict the guys, and the jury said no. Well, we next have the Kid Gannon case. The Kid Gannon case, pitcher James Gussie Gannon, who had a major league career of about one game or something like that with Pittsburgh, was among 11 players arrested in connection with the events of May 16th. The owners were also arrested. On June 14th, a grand jury handed down indictments against the players and the owners. On July 2nd, the ruling came down in the first of the cases. In the People versus James Gannon, the pitcher was found guilty. Judge Sutherland ruled that if the team played no further Sunday games, the remaining cases would be dropped. And by the way, at that point, there were close to 50 cases involved because there were arrests on all of those other days. And there was a fourth case. This was a civil suit that was brought by members of the clergy against the owners stemming from the events of May 16th when they were locked out of the ballpark. This case was ultimately dropped as pursuant to July 2nd. There was no Sunday baseball in Rochester. The ballpark, by the way, in the midst of all of this, the ballpark burnt down again. So that's one of the reasons we don't have any pictures of that ballpark. It was around for a very short period of time. Minor League Baseball returned to Rochester in 1898 and has thrived there ever since. Sunday baseball became less of an issue. There was a new Culver ballpark built for the team, and there was a new Sunday venue as well. They used Ontario Beach as the Sunday home of the Rochester Eastern League until the laws were more relaxed. Ontario Beach Park, they had several games there while the Blue Lords were on the books. The ballpark at Ontario Beach consisted of a three-sided primary grandstand along with a set of bleachers along the first base side. The 1902 Irondequoit map view of the ballpark grandstand on the far image, which I'll show you in a second, was seen from the Genesee River. The minor league team used the ballpark as its Sunday location from 1898 through 1902. Major League Baseball was played at Ontario Park at all, one game. The game was Cleveland and Brooklyn. Cleveland was wandering all around in those days, and Brooklyn won the game 7-5. And that's a picture on the right of the park area, and on the left you can see where it was located with respect to the rest of the beachfront. Now, at the end of the 19th century, the National League contracted back to 8 teams, with only Chicago, Cincinnati, and St. Louis allowing Sunday baseball. The early American League allowed for Sunday baseball only in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Detroit. When St. Louis replaced Milwaukee in 1902, St. Louis continued to host Sunday baseball. It wasn't until 1934 that there was Sunday baseball in each big league city. That's it for my presentation. What do you want me to do now, Bob?
Okay, Alan, if you just take your slides down, just exit out, or get out of the full screen, just hit escape on your keyboard.
Yeah.
Okay, and you just X out your slides. I've got a couple of comments and a couple of questions to address to you. Hold on here. Dave Newman, for my comment about your work with the Hartford yard goats, he notes that a yard goat is an old railroad term for locomotives that stay in the railroad yard shuffling cars from track to track and generally keeping things in order. Railroad gave us a lot of slang, and I believe
Okay,
doubleheader comes from.
let me, thank
slang.
you. Yeah, quick about the yard goats and a little fun story. Yes, it is that railroad term, and somebody submitted the name, and that in an election of sorts. I'm really not too sure how it happened, but it was selected, and they've had fun with the term and the goats and all of that. My wife and I were out traveling to the left coast a few years back. It was after the team was named. I think it was in 2016. And we were taking the trolley cars, the cable cars there, and there was a point where they were turning them down around, etc. And there's my wife's looking at him, and she's pointing. There's a yard goat. So anyhow, but yeah, that's about the yard goats. Funny name and all.
Indeed, that seemed to be minor league seemed to be going for that for marketing purposes and those sort of things. Stu Thornley asked that he noted that in the Western League in the 1890s, there were teams that were reportedly scheduled Sunday games as a way of testing blue laws. Did this happen in the majors as well?
I missed part of that question there, Bob. I'm sorry.
Certainly. Stu Thornley notes that in the Western League in the 1890s, teams reportedly scheduled Sunday games as a way to test the blue laws. Did this happen in the majors as well?
As far as testing the blue laws, not in the 19th century. In the 20th century, it happened, especially in Brooklyn. And it happened in 3 consecutive years, and each year, and there were arrests, and ultimately they gave up until 2 decades, until a full decade later.
I have this vague memory of Cleveland. Their team was owned by streetcar owners, and they just wanted to not to test the law, but just challenge the law by saying we're going to play anyway. And they thought they were important enough to get away with it. Sometimes it didn't work.
Yeah, but the thing about Cleveland was, even though they played, their attendance was so bad and the problems were so bad that they ultimately, that last year, they were on the road more than they were at home of Cleveland team.
Okay. Edward Brown notes that the name of the book you may be trying to remember was Green Cathedrals.
Yes, it was.
Were a number of stadium books. Mike Slocum asks, why was there more opposition to Sunday baseball in the East as opposed to the Western states?
It was just the East was the old heartland of the country, so to speak. The churches were far more established in the East than they were in the West. And I think in the West on Sundays, the people in those areas wanted to relax, wanted to rest. They were working hard, especially farmers and the like. So they wanted to have, they saw Sunday as a day to enjoy things a bit more. And so they had, they just didn't have the opposition to Sunday baseball in the West.
I remember a term in the Midwest called the Continental Sabbath. They had these cities with heavily German and other immigrant populations that were used to that. They weren't the English proper Brahmins, so that was kind of the norm. You go to church in the morning, and the rest of the day was kind of yours.
Yeah, you have the Puritan impact on the Eastern states.
Mm-hmm. Bill Humber notes that one finding that is that predominantly, hold on here, Protestant cities were strongly Sabbatarian, while those which were largely Catholic allowed Sunday baseball. Can you comment on that?
I think that's in line with what we were just discussing. And the impact of the Catholic Church I don't think was as major in the 19th century. The impact of the Catholic Church grew with the immigrant population, and many of the original immigrants came to, say, New York. And you saw the opposition in New York, and it was heated, but not enough to overcome, especially New York State, because anybody who's lived in New York long enough knows you have New York State, you have New York City, and Albany does not necessarily agree with doing things the way New York City would want. Hence, no Sunday baseball.
Bob Komorowski notes that the Western cities were heavily German and had no qualms about drinking on Sunday or Saturday or Tuesday for that matter. And that's what all the questions and comments that I've got. Alan, thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation and the information that you put out is very interesting. And we are very glad to have dug a little deeper into the Sunday baseball issues in the 19th century. Peter, if you're ready to make your final comments, we'll move on.
Yes, Alan, this is a fascinating topic. And being a criminal justice person in my first life, it fits right in. I should tell Professor Harvey, Elizabeth Harvey at John Jay about your talk because it fits crime and punishment in America. And, you know, you go back to the very first, where she begins her syllabus at the beginning of the term is the Anne Hutchinson case, which is a Puritan case where, you know, a woman is thrown out of the community and, you know, left to fend for herself. It's got a tragic ending, but it's right in line with that. And I find it fascinating, and the forces that, you know, insisted that baseball not be played. So it's a very interesting topic. And thank you so much for being our guide this month. We really appreciate it. I want to say that next month we have Monica Nutrioni coming in to do a talk on Alexander Cartwright, and she has authored probably the definitive biography of Cartwright, which is really having to do with the man and the myth. So it'll be a fascinating presentation. That's going to be in February, second Tuesday of February. Bob, I think you had another great success here with Alan, and thank you both.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for coming in this new year. The second Tuesday of February, we will have the next go round. As Peter said, Monica will give her presentation on her research on Alexander Cartwright. Have a good night. Have a good year. Be well, everybody.
Thank you all. Be well. Stay safe.